Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. Our next guest, Assistant to the President and Director of Domestic Policy Council, joining us on the phones this morning, Brooke Rollins, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Brooke, good morning. How are you today?
Well, good morning. You forgot the single most important thing is that I'm a Texan.
There you go.
Introduction, not from your part of the state, but from near Fort Worth, a little town called Glen Rose, Texas.
I know Glen Rose very well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so glad to be talking to all my friends back home.
Absolutely, Brooke. It's great to have you on. The reason you're joining us today, the President of the United States rolling out a new executive order, I believe, today.
Yes, he is. You know, there's never a dull moment in the Trump White House. That is for sure. I think the pace of this White House, which is why I think Texans do very well that actually go to work for President Trump, because we love hard work and we love hitting it hard. But every day is a new day, and every day a different issue that we're trying to fix and solve. But today we're rolling out a really special one. It's a Hispanic Prosperity Initiative executive order, a focus on some of our most vulnerable communities, but specifically what this president hopes to do and will continue to do, which is bringing prosperity across the board to all Americans.
Absolutely. So tell us what's going to be in this executive order and what it aims to achieve.
Well, it's a couple different things. You know, mostly it's focused on improving access to educational, training, and economic opportunities for Hispanic American students, promoting options like school choice, which this president has made a hallmark of his efforts while in Washington and while he was a candidate, but also personalized learning, family engagement, civics education, and pathways to in-demand jobs. And I think that's a big part of it, but also, you know, looking at this president's record for all Americans, but the lowest poverty rates, the lowest unemployment rates, the highest median income for all Americans, but especially for our most vulnerable Americans, many from the African American population, Hispanic population, disabled population, veterans population. This is just one more piece of that puzzle as he continues to fight for everyone.
Right, and this also flies in the face of everything that you hear on the national news media, that, you know, the president doesn't care about, people of other races than whites. I mean, you know, in the times that we live in now, I mean, this is, you know, we're back to the attitude Republicans only care about white people. And if you look at the president's record, and you brought it up before coronavirus hit, which is, you know, not the fault of the president. Before coronavirus hit, everybody was doing so much better, and particularly among minority groups. You saw higher employment, you saw lower food stamp rates, and everything else. I mean, things were really going very well.
Yeah, and, you know, I say this a lot, and we actually proved this out in Texas, Chad, when I was running the Texas Public Policy Foundation before I joined the White House for a long time, 15 years, that free markets and limited government and opportunity and liberty does more for all Americans, but it does the most for those who are the least among us, for our most vulnerable populations. And, you know, all those years I was fighting in Texas and we were rolling back regulations and cutting taxes. Our poverty rate was half of California's, and California had twice the amount of taxes and twice the size of government. This stuff actually works, and so becoming a part of the Trump White House, the Trump model, the Trump legacy, I think he's going to go down in history as having done more for our Hispanic population, our African American population, our rural population than any president before, which runs very counter to the narrative from the left and the Democrats, but that's why they're panicked. That's why they throw the racist tag at us. That's why they throw the he hates everyone but people who look just like him at us. Yeah. It couldn't be further from the truth. And having worked with him every day for now more than 2 years, I have lived it and seen it firsthand.
We're visiting with Brooke Rollins here on the Chad Hasty Show. I also thought this piece, the president supporting school choice, it's something you hear quite a bit from the president when talking about civil rights, and that school choice is a civil rights issue of our time. This president really does believe in that. He
really does, and he's 100% right. You know, the idea that these kids in these, especially in the larger cities, are trapped in schools where the graduation rates are dismal, where the average reading is a grade school level for high school seniors. The average sort of pipeline to a certificate or to a good job or to college is almost nothing, where these kids are going straight from these public schools directly into the welfare system or into our prison system. It's remarkable to me that the very people that say they represent these underserved populations, the Democrats from these cities, are the ones that fight school choice the hardest. Of course, we know why, right? Because the teachers' unions are their number one or number two contributors politically and have them completely, locked into this lockstep being against school choice. But we know that if we can get these kids into a good education, into an education where their parents can choose, it's a charter school, a private school, a public school, that ultimately those kids have a fighting chance at the American dream. And then the second part of that, Chad, is that once there is competition, those public schools will get better. And that's the piece that people don't talk about enough, that it isn't just about, it's mostly about getting these kids into better education opportunities, but it's also about how do we force improvement into these public schools in these larger urban areas. And competition works. And if they can't compete, then they close down and something else pops up in their place. It's the great American enterprise experiment that has worked for hundreds of years.
Sounds like it's going to be a great executive order that the president rolls out. Brooke, we appreciate you joining us and highlighting it today here on the show. And let's talk again soon.
We'd love that. Thanks to all of the Texans who support this great president and the great conservative ideas. Love being on your show, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Have a great day. That's Brooke Rollins, a Texan, assistant to the president and director of Domestic Policy Council. Appreciate her for joining us today. We'll be right back.